Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries. I'm John and this is Hannah.
Hi.
And all this month we're going to be looking at the various prompts for RPGaDay 2025. So let's get into it.
Next one up is number 9, Inspire. So come on, John, what inspires you for your games?
Okay, well, when I'm looking at a game that I want to run for my group, there's a few different things that I sort of take into account. One being, do I think the players will enjoy it? 2, will I enjoy it? 3, is it a game I've got? How long is it going to take me to learn it if I've not run it before? You know, that sort of thing. In terms of what actually inspires me, though, in a game, it's a game that has a very clear idea of the sort of game it's going to be. It's why I love it if you get a book like Knave 2nd edition, where the sort of author puts in like a statement of authorial intent, effectively, when the author sort of sets out their stall and they're like, right, this game is designed to run this particular sort of game, and here's the flavour I'm going for. Now, if I take that and completely ignore that and run a different game with it, fine, no problem at all. But I like to know sort of what the author was considering when they wrote it, and then I can choose to ignore that or follow that as I see fit. But I always find it inspiring to hear from other creative people what they're thinking about when they're sort of, whether they're creating a game, an adventure, you know, if I'm watching an actual play on YouTube, if I can get an idea of what's inspiring them, that sort of inspires me as well.
Yeah, and this is very much what I would say with it. The thing that inspires me most for writing a game is the players.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to run a game that's Star Trek themed, I don't want a load of players who prefer Star Wars.
No.
You know,
Whereas they should all be preferring Babylon 5 like any sensible person would do.
Now, we've been arguing about this for a quarter of a century at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's not get into it now.
Okay.
So, what I mean, though, is that if you've got a group who really enjoy comedy stuff, then they're not going to be particularly inspired by a dead serious dark game.
No.
If you've got a group who like that dark weepy stuff, then they're not going to be thrilled by something set in Discworld, for example.
That's right, we're talking to you 90s vampire players, of which I was one, so I'm allowed to say that.
I mean, that's where we met.
Yeah.
We can't really take the piss too much, can we?
But no, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the part of the reason I ended up running a Wolfram game for some of the guys we go LARPing with is because they're all into the sort of the miniatures gaming and they know the Warhammer world. And when I mentioned I was already running a Wolfram game, they were all like, oh, that sounds really cool. Would you run something for us? So I was like, yeah, of course I will. I'll give that a go. Whereas if they were all like, oh, no, we're not really keen on the Warhammer world or anything like that, there'd be no point running a game. And sometimes, okay, if someone's like got a bit of an interest, you can grow that interest by running a game. But if someone's got no interest whatsoever, like say if someone's like, oh, I hate all sci-fi, there's no point me polling up and being like, fancy a game of West End game Star Wars, because they're not going to enjoy it. And I think part of the thing about role-playing is there's a bit of sort of compromise where that's involved, because it has to be something that interests you as a GM, or you're not going to do your best work GMing the game. But it's also got to be something where like the the players will meet you halfway and they've got interest in it as well.
Yeah, and it's not just settings and things, it's finding a couple of bits for your game that are going to interest that particular player. So maybe you've got someone who's really into like cryptography. Yeah. So you intentionally put in a puzzle where they've got to sit down while everybody else is eating pizza and solve a complex code. Or you've got someone that's playing that bard that loves to chat up the barmaids. So maybe you put in like their biggest fan who worships them and wants their autograph and is willing to betray the bad guys. But you can put that in for your player.
True.
You know, if you've got a big damn hero with loads of muscles, you want something to pick up that's really heavy or something to fight. Because otherwise, what's the point of being a big damn hero with loads of muscles? Otherwise, you end up being like the Worf effect, where my enormous 6th level barbarian with his gigantic sword gets slotted down, and that lets the other player characters know that this monster's fairly hard.
Yeah, so one of the things I like doing at the end, we've talked about this a little bit previously, is at the end of each session, you're asking people what they plan on doing next, and you prep for that. One of the things I also like doing is asking players like which bits of the previous session they most enjoyed, because to be honest, if you just say to people like, oh, did you enjoy the session, most people, if they've not had an absolutely terrible time, will be like, yeah, I enjoyed it, which is great, you're glad they're enjoying it, but as like feedback goes, it's not particularly helpful. Whereas if you say to people like, oh, which bits of the session did you enjoy most, you can tell an awful lot about what you should include in future sessions and what they find inspiring. So if you're running a game and you say to someone, oh, what did you enjoy, and the player's like, oh, I really enjoyed when we were like doing all them dodgy dealings with the Thieves Guild in that city, you can be like, all right, maybe their player character, they want to get them involved in some organised crime or some stuff like that, or like tangling with the city watch and whatever, and you can bring a bit more of that in the future, because that's obviously what's really firing that player up. Whereas if they're sort of like, oh yeah, I enjoy the bit with the Thieves Guild, but you can think, oh well, maybe that's not something we want to have as a major element in the game. And obviously, we said earlier, there's a bit of a sort of spirit of compromise, and you have to take into account all the different players' sort of views. So if you've got 4 players, you've got 3 people who are like, yeah, let's go with these like criminal stories, and one player's like, not so keen. You might want to bring those in, but also have some like side plots to like throw to that other character to keep them interested in doing stuff that they like, because it's not just about, like you see, the players should be what inspires you to run the game, but you should also be taking note of what inspires them and using that to sort of build your game up, as far as I'm concerned.
And this is something where you can talk about like, oh, a particular movie or a particular scene in a movie.
Yeah.
We're doing a vampire game. Okay, is it going to be more Dusk Till Dawn or Twilight or Lost Boys? And by discussing that sort of stuff early on, you can get a lot of ideas that you can then use. And because you're talking about stories other than your game, you're not putting a load of spoilers of your game in.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, and that can be, that sort of thing can be the inspiration that like sparks off you going to your players initially and saying like, oh guys, you remember that film we watched the other week, and it was all sort of like dark, gritty, like cyberpunk, and we all enjoyed it. Well, I've got this game that's like a bit similar to that. Do you maybe fancy giving it a go? Or conversely, if you went to see a film and you were all like, oh, it was a superhero film, but we weren't all really into it, you'd be like, maybe I'm not going to run a superhero game, So you can sort of take it either way.
Equally, you can go, oh, you didn't really enjoy the superhero movie, why not?
Yeah.
And then you can take note of those things and use that to not make that mistake when you're running the game.
Absolutely. So that's it from me and Hannah for this RPGaDay 2025 episode.
Bye.
Hopefully you'll join us in the next one. Until we see you again, take care, stay safe, and whenever you're playing, have fun.